Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe. I'm here with the co-host
CGO.
CGO or George. Today is the 24th of February, 2026, and we are talking about the Champions League round of 24 playoff, leg two, the first set of games. There's four games today. A couple of these ties were already decided. Bayer Leverkusen finished off Olympiacos. The result today was 0-0. But the aggregate was 2-0. Atletico Madrid won 4-1, so overall tie was 7-4. Newcastle United won 3-2, so that overall tie was 9-3. But the biggest news of the day, and honestly, in my opinion, one of the biggest knockout upsets I've seen that I can certainly remember, was Bodo Glimt beat Inter Milan 2-1. Now, George, I watched the extended highlights, and from what I saw, Bodo Glimt won 5-2 on aggregate. I did not watch the 90-minute game. My understanding is that you did, George. It looked like Bodo Glimt was the much better team. This was not an accident. This was not they both played evenly, and Bodo Glimt finished more often than the other team because there's some luck in soccer. This was Bodo Glimt being the better team. How accurate is that assessment, and how crazy is it that Bodo Glimt won this game?
Oh, the one of the things we must commend Bodo Glimt for is the approach they came with. That's why we must give credit to their coach, Shetel Konutsin. The man did a great job. What they did was they came in the first half and then played low block, tried to frustrate the Inter Milan team because they know Inter Milan will try to come out and try to mount pressure. If they came out to play Inter Milan, then they would have been into a very big trouble. So they took their time, tried to absorb pressure, play low block. They didn't create much space for Inter Milan to penetrate, and then they were able to at least achieve something positive. The match ended goalless in the first half. Second half, they came with similar pattern. Then they tried to use a counter attack. Unfortunately for Inter Milan, this guy called Akanji made a blunder and then lost the ball to a Bodo Glimt player. I was expecting the guy to score, but he shot the ball and somehow was able to save it. But unfortunately, we had a guy who was able to put the ball into the net. Immediately they got that goal, they had more confidence. And then Inter Milan were started struggling. Inter Milan actually dominated. They had more possession of the ball. But these guys were very tactical the way they approached the ball. Before you knew it, they scored a second goal. And when they scored the second goal, Inter Milan knew it was almost over. In fact, they were fortunate they even got that consolation goal through their defender. So
Right.
for me, it was a very good game for Bodo Glimt. They've really shown that they are a team that they don't have any respect for anything. They come out and try to prove themselves. So I'm very
George,
impressed with the team.
is this the biggest upset in a Champions League knockout tie in history, in your
Uh,
opinion?
well, I won't say in history because we've seen a Norwegian club called Rosenborg do something similar. I think that was in 1996, 1997 season.
That was before
We,
my time. I don't remember that.
so they did something similar. In fact, they got to the quarterfinals, but then we don't have a round of 16, so you just play the group stage and go straight to the
Sorry,
quarterfinals.
in your living memory, so like the last 15 to 20 years watching the Champions League, do you feel like this is the biggest upset?
Well, I would say maybe one of the biggest upset. I won't say it's the biggest because we've had upsets of this kind in the past, but it's not something that happens too regularly. But
Yeah.
this
Is it a
is
bigger upset than Grimsby beating Manchester United in the FA Cup?
well, well, that's a big upset, but upsets don't always happen like that. So
Yeah.
we must give credit to this team. I'm so impressed with them. I love the fact that they've been progressing. And if you look, this is a club that was almost running into bankruptcy, but they were able to come out of it. The good thing is that the coach who is in charge of this team was an assistant coach in 2017 to the team. And then the man who was in charge was promoted to be the sporting director. So they were relegated in 2016 from the top division, the elite serene, to the lower division. And 2017, they finished top of the lower division and got promoted. You know, in the last 6 seasons, they've won 4 of the trophies. So that shows you progression. And they got to the
Yeah.
semifinals of the Europa League last season.
George, if
So
you're Bodo
that's a very
Glimt,
good, yeah.
would you rather play Manchester City, who you've already beaten, by the way, or Sporting?
Well, I feel they would prefer to play Sporting Lisbon because Manchester City, with the new recruits they have in their team, I feel they will have it more difficult to defeat Manchester City. But if they
Wasn't
play Sporting
wasn't
Lisbon,
that
they stand a better chance.
wasn't that win against Manchester City in January?
But then with I
Like
don't think
Gahey was already on. I we could put out the dates out there. I don't remember Gahey
no
was
no
on the
no
team.
Gay hasn't joined the club then
Okay,
when they
okay.
played Manchester City. So uh,
Yeah, I think that Bodo Glimt would probably rather play Sporting just because. I mean, it's awesome for Bodo Glimt that they beat Man City. Sporting on paper has got to be a weaker team. Though both on paper are stronger than Bodo Glimt. And Bodo Glimt won several games that they were the weaker team on paper. It was why they played the games. I think this is one of the most exciting things in Champions League in a while. I remember loving Ajax's run in 2018. Was it 2019? They beat several teams in the way, and they
yes, yes,
lost. Ironically, they lost to Tottenham, like another small
yes.
team making, in my opinion, a run, which was really cool too to watch a small team like Tottenham make it. And yeah, so it's just a pretty cool to always to watch this. One of my favorite Champions League runs too was a young Monaco team in 2017 got to the
Yes.
semifinal that eventually lost to Juventus, but they had Kylian Mbappe, they had Fabinho, they had many players that you'd recognize. Just an exceptional run to the semifinals, and they also won League One with crazy amount of points that year. George, of the other three games, did any of the results surprise you?
No, no, no. None of the results surprised me because all the teams I predicted would scale through. The only one we disagreed on was the one between Inter and Bodo Glimt. But I was just confident the way they've been approaching games made me feel they are going to win. I knew Atletico Madrid, they are going to knock out the Club Brugge from the Champions League. And they did that. And credit must go to another Norwegian who made the whole difference. The guy called Alexander Solot. He scored an hat-trick today and helped Atletico Madrid to get a convincing win in that game, 4 goals to 1. So it was something I knew Atletico Madrid playing at home. No, I didn't see Club Brugge having a chance against them. I knew they would most likely scale through, especially at this moment that is so critical. So it wasn't a result that I never expected. I knew it's going to happen that way. And then we knew Bayer Leverkusen, they are supposed to at least have a better result against Olympiacos, being that they are
Yeah,
playing at home, even though the game ended goalless. So that result didn't come to me as a surprise as well. Newcastle, they already did the job in Azerbaijan when they won 6-1 away from home. So playing this game, in fact, the likes of Anthony Gordon were on the bench. They didn't start the game. They only came in the second half. So telling you that they knew they are already through. If it was a
which
very important game, they would have even scored more goals than they
who do
did
you think
today.
Atletico Madrid wants more, Liverpool or Tottenham?
I feel if they play Tottenham, they will stand a better chance of moving to the next stage. But if they play Liverpool, it will be a bit tight for them. But Liverpool currently, they are not in their best form. So I'm sure even Liverpool wouldn't like to play against Atletico Madrid at this
Yeah,
point. Yes.
we'll
So they
see.
would
We'll
like to
see.
avoid, yes.
Bayer Leverkusen draws Bayern Munich or Arsenal. Do you feel like which of those results would? I'll say I would be more excited for Leverkusen versus Arsenal. I just think that cross league games, the more in country ties we have in the round of 16, the weaker the competition is from a neutral perspective. I have no dog in this fight for the Champions League, but I'd like to see more matches we don't see. So I'd like to see Newcastle draw Barcelona. I'd like to see PSG or Monaco draw Chelsea. I'd like to see Leverkusen draw Arsenal, and that would mean that um, Bayern
But,
Munich
but,
would
but
play like
remember, Remember, if Bayern Munich, if
That's true.
Borussia,
It's
if
true.
Borussia Dortmund knocks out Atlanta tomorrow, that means we are going to have two German teams. So Bayern Munich will likely play against a German side
Yeah,
in the
that is true.
round of
As much as
16.
we can, I'd like to see non-German, two country, cross country games, and of course, if there's two German teams in Bayern Munich's pot, that's not really possible. But it would be great to see more teams like that. So, um, yeah, games tomorrow, George, are Monaco, PSG, Galatasaray, Juventus, Real Madrid, Benfica, and Borussia Dortmund, Atalanta, and a lot of soccer left to play.
Well, for me, I already told you yesterday that Borussia Dortmund will surely, most likely, they will scale through. I don't see Atalanta doing much when it comes to overturning the table. And then Benfica, I don't think see them defeating Real Madrid at the Bernabeu Stadium. So it's going to be Real Madrid knocking out Benfica tomorrow. Borussia should knock out Atalanta. We should see PSG knocking out AS Monaco, and then Galatasaray having a 4 goal advantage already because they won 5-1. I don't see the way Juve will turn things around. And it's going to be very sad because what it means is all Italian clubs will be knocked out of
Yeah, I was
the.
thinking that today. I mean, like, I think, do you see like Italian teams? In the last 20 years, they've gone from clearly the best team in the world to clearly, good, like clearly in the other top. Do you feel like they're descending more and more to this, that they could fall into that realm of like Portugal and Netherlands where they're not quite as good as the top four leagues in the world? Because I feel like France has been on the ascendancy the last 10 years or so. What are your thoughts on that, George?
The truth is that Italian clubs, their performance has beginning to drop. The only team that has been maybe trying to make that league at least a bit noticeable is Inter Milan. And unfortunately, Inter Milan is already out. So Juve in the past couple of seasons, they've not been doing too well. Even last season, they were knocked
We
out.
we had an
So
all Italian semifinal like 2 or 3 years ago where Inter Milan played AC Milan in the semifinals though. Um, I don't know. I do feel like I still feel like Italy's has been on the decline. They've been not
they,
investing in their
they've not
clubs
been
very
that
much.
consistent. They've not been consistent.
If you're a top youth from Brazil or Argentina or Chile, like 20 years ago, you were going to Italy. Nowadays, you're probably going to Portugal or Netherlands or Spain as your more likely destination. So a lot of those players are just integrating better in those countries nowadays. I feel like that's hurt Italian football. I feel like there's not many great Italian youth players. I mean, they've really struggled internationally the last 20 years as well. They've missed two World Cups, I believe, after winning one 20
Yes.
years ago.
Yeah.
So all these things are cyclical. I've found, and just the longer I watch football, the more I realize those things are cyclical. And it will be certainly interesting to see how they rebound because there's quite a lot of people there who love football.
But Joe, don't you think this has to do with the management system in Italy? That's why they're having those kind of decline. Because imagine the Italian teams missing out in the World Cups, and even if case not taken, they might even be missing out in this year's World Cup because they need to play the playoff for them to even stand a chance of going. So don't you think that's where the problem is?
I mean, I think that the clubs for decades they took their position at the top in the 90s and well into the 2000s and did not invest that in their youth development, in their stadium infrastructure, in their playing infrastructure that we've seen English clubs do a lot of the last 10 years while they've been on the top. I think that doesn't pay off 20 years down the line. The consequences are the youth coming out of the Italian is not as good as it is in Spain and England and France. I think that young France is probably the best place to develop if you're an 18-year-old talented kid right now. When Italy might have been in the 90s, and it's one of the consequences is Italy hasn't had great internationals. Like they don't have absolutely world. They have 60 million people and they're crazy about football. So of course there's enough people that they do have talent, but I don't think it's quite as uh, much of a separation between Italian talent as and other European countries as it was 20 years ago. Like
So
how
one other question I have for you is, don't you think Spain is beginning to toe that line because if you look at in terms of performance from last season, it seems the Spanish teams are also beginning to drop in form.
You're 100% right. I do feel like the same Spain is probably a 10 year, 15 years behind. I do think from 2009 to 2018 or so, in the peak Ronaldo Messi years, Spain was clearly the best country, better than England, despite all the marketing of the Premier League. A lot of those teams have used that money that they had from being the best team to line to not invest in their youth. Barcelona has actually done a great job of investing in their youth, but maybe the rest of Spain hasn't. Yeah, I do feel like they could decline going forward. England is also there's also nuance here where England has just so much money that it's very hard for non huge clubs around Europe to compete. But I do feel like Spain's declining. Spain also had one of the best peaks of any country ever in terms of national. From 2008 to 2012, they had the best national team, arguably of all time.
Yes.
Certainly, in my opinion, the best since I started watching around '98. And so there's always going to decline from that. And they've had some success, a lot of success the last 10 years. Spain is definitely in a better shape than Italy going forward. They won Euros. In my opinion, they're the favorite for the World Cup. But we'll talk about that a lot in this podcast.
Well, but one of the problems we noticed the Spanish La Liga has been having in the recent times has always they've always talking about the issue of finance. Like we know, Barcelona has been going through financial issues, financial challenges, and then we also hear about officiating being questioned in the Spanish La Liga. So things like this, I feel, it's something that can affect uh, football developments or the progress of football in a league. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I also, now that you're mentioning it too, I do feel like the referee scandal from 2006 impacted Italy. It was always on the decline, but that definitely accelerated the decline. Just as a fan, you want to have this assumption that the league that is a fair game you're watching and the ref is truly neutral, and that anything that makes you question that as a fan should be nipped in the bud by these leagues, or else why are we watching? Why are we being entertained? This isn't, wrestling where or this is we want to see a fair contest above all, and we want to see drama. And I do feel like that. When I watch La Liga, um, there is rumors about ref. I think there's this thing in the courts where this ref got caught favoring certain teams. It wasn't quite as bad as Italy. I don't know the details of what's going on there, but I do think that certain fans definitely have the perception that referees benefit certain teams in Spain.
No, I think something very important has to be done because when referees maybe tries to favor teams, somehow you bring the game to disrepute, and one way or the other, it always have a kind of it boomerangs at the end of the day. So most things, as much as we all want our teams to win, we should also try to see the game, at least have some level of decency when it comes to having decorum, and then have fair play, have at least fairness in the way officiating goes. And there should be some level of consistency, which is one of those things we've also talked about in the Premier League. So every league has to wake up. Officiating should be as fair as possible, and we should have consistency when it comes to officiating, not when you give a penalty for something or you overrule a goal for an incident. Then when we have similar incident in another game, you see referees doing something different from what they did in the past. So that consistency, something has to be done about it.
Yes.
But
All right. So let's close out today, George, with final questions. Do you agree with George and probably myself on the games tomorrow? All these are pretty far gone already. It'd be a huge turnaround for any of these games to result in anything opposite, George. Do you feel the opposite? Let us know. Did any of the results surprise you today? I know Bodo Glimt winning in Italy definitely surprised me. I thought they might go through. I thought there was no chance they would win. I thought it was awesome. Did any of the results specifically surprise you? Is Bodo Glimt over Inter the biggest surprise in the Champions League in the last 10 years in terms of knockouts? Let us know your thoughts. What has caused Is Italy in decline, or is this just a down year for them? If and what are your thoughts on, is Spain also headed in that direction, given the problems that they have? Let us know your thoughts, and thank you for listening.